Your childhood. How much influence do you think your childhood have on how you feel today? In our daily life, our childhood is not something we think much about. That means that we have some experiences we remember, good experiences we remember. We have some bad experiences we remember, but we don't really consider it as part of what's going on right now for us. But you will be surprised to see how big of an influence your childhood actually have of your life today. There's a lot of issues regarding your childhood. For instance, if you have been a child which have only been on your own, or if you have been part of a lot of children, there's things like sex abuse, alcohol, drugs, violence, kids of divorced parents. Perhaps you are thinking to yourself, yeah, but I had a normal childhood. There was nothing wrong with it, and I'm still sitting here and having a big depression. Let's take a look at how childhood influence on grown-ups and adults. You're perhaps in a situation right now where your life has been falling completely apart for several kind of reasons. Or something has happened in your life that had caused your normal life to kind of fall apart. This means you have a big depression even though life seems pretty normal. And the least thing you're thinking of right now is probably not your childhood. If you're only 16 years old, you're still part of that childhood. I will make other courses regarding young people and depression. From our childhood and youth, we are moving on in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and further on. And with our dreams, our ambitions, our lives, how they are turning up. And the least thing we are thinking of is our childhood. So even though you think to yourself that the childhood you had have nothing to do with the situation you're in now, you still have to consider it because it have a great deal of influence on your life right now. And by being aware of that knowledge, you'll be able to solve some of the problems or perhaps all of the problems you have today. You see, as a child, you're getting like a record made in your life. A record which is not able to be changed. This means there's some mechanisms which are built into you. By knowing those mechanisms, you'll be able to solve some of your problems and to deal with them in the right way. You'll be aware of why you have certain reactions. Did you know that the first 5 years of a child's life has a very big influence on the development in future? These first 5 years is going to shape that child as the adult it is today. Only a very few people remember those 5 years in their childhood. So how can you basically use something you can't remember? To have a depression is among the most confusing things a human being can be exposed to. There's a lot of thoughts going on. Normally it's only like one thing or two or three things which are the real reason why it have started that depression. In other times in your life, those few things is like nothing. Perhaps you would have been sad for a few weeks and that was basically it. But for some reason, that thing which you perhaps in former times or other people would not consider as something special, that thing is now taking your world apart. This is the reason why we have to go back in the childhood. It is to find signs in that record made at that time. You see, to have a depression, like a puzzle. And one of the things in that depression, in that puzzle, that is your childhood. So basically, those first 5 years of your life as a child have basically created that person you are today. So no matter if you have ups or downs, you're still the same person. So when kids reach the age of 6 years old, they have for 95% developed a brain which has the size of adults. That means that the physical part is now created for the child. From there, the brain now needs to develop to function as an adult brain. And that's what's going to take place in the teenage years. Why is this important? This can actually explain a few things. It can actually explain a few reactions from you at the moment. I'm not talking about intelligence in this. I'm talking about what your brain have been exposed to. So the brain is getting created from the 6 years and through over the teenage years and up in the mid-20s. So in the teenage years, the brain are getting developed after the principle of use it or lose it, which again means some areas will be strengthened and some areas will lose it and getting weaker. That again means things which have been very positive and things which have been very negative will also be very strengthened in your adult life. I think we can compare it to your control system on your computer. If the control system is optimized, then your computer will be working perfect. If there is a few damages in the control system, the computer will not work proper. And this is the same with your brain. There is, as a child, some areas which have been used a lot, and some areas which hasn't been used that much. And exactly that fact will show you what kind of person you are today. Now, when this session is over, then sit down, please, and go back in time. To dig in the past is actually not something you just sit down and do in an hour. It can take a long time to find and settle these things from the past. But you can actually just go through and take a little view about things, and that would pretty soon give you a good little hint about what's going on. But there is a lot of different kind of other things which also influence on the depression. This is just a part of it. The case is that a depression is something which can strike everybody, even though you've had a good childhood.